What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 215 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to talk to you about another Transformers book. This is Transformers, the IDW collection, Volume 2. This collects the Stormbringer 4-issue miniseries, the Escalation miniseries, which I think is 6 issues long, and then another 5 or 6 of the Spotlight issues, which, once again, I really love the Spotlight issues because I know very, very little about the Transformers characters and the universe surrounding these characters, so I really like these Spotlight issues because they slow down on the plot stuff that is going on in the main minis, and they introduce me to these characters and tell me a little bit about who they are. In the previous volume, I didn't know anything about Soundwave, and then we got an entire issue showing me a little bit about who this guy is, and I really like that. This volume, we get a little bit about Ultra Magnus. We get a little bit about Optimus Prime, who a few videos ago I was saying that most of the time he is just portrayed as being the ultimate good guy, but we get to see a little bit about his character in this issue, and I like that quite a bit. One thing I will say about these Spotlight issues, though, is that if you are reading these minis and you are skipping the Spotlights, you really should not be doing that. Yes, the main story is happening through the pages of Infiltration and then Stormbringer and then Escalation, but there is stuff that's happening in the Spotlight issues that is eventually going to feed into these main minis. For example, some of the events that happened in the Soundwave issue are now being brought back in the Escalation miniseries. And then I know stuff that's happening in the Ultra Magnus issue here and stuff that later on happens in the RC Spotlight issue, those events later feed into some of the main minis that we get to see later on. So if you are skipping these Spotlight issues thinking, well, I know who all the Transformers characters are, I don't need a refresher course on who Cup is, you probably will want to go and read these Spotlight issues anyway. And I do wish that the people at IDW had found a better way to print these comics instead of doing a series of Spotlight issues that most fans would think are probably skippable. I wish they had done an ongoing series where you would have the main events of Infiltration and Stormbringer and Escalation happening in the front of the book, and then in the back of the book you could have all these Spotlight issues. And then if you think that these things aren't important but it's already part of the issue, you'll read it anyway, and then you'll realize, oh wait, this is important. And then the people like me who don't know anything about Transformers, they'll read it anyway, and then it will be important later on, and also it's a good little introduction to a lot of these characters. So moving on to the two minis of this book, the first one is Stormbringer, which takes place right around the same time as Infiltration from the previous miniseries. And one complaint that I've heard a lot of people bring up towards Transformers as a whole is the human point of view characters. In the 1980s, you had Spike and Sparkplug. In the live-action movies, you had Shia LaBeouf, and then later on, you had Mark Wahlberg. In these comics, you have Hunter O'Neill, you have Verity, and you have her friend Jimmy. And I mentioned yesterday that these characters are okay. They're a little bit annoying. Here, they're not much better. But in the Stormbringer miniseries, you don't have any humans at all. All of this is happening way away from Earth, close to Cybertron. Now, it does have some issues. Just because it doesn't have any human beings in it doesn't mean that it is a flawless story, although there are some people out there who so passionately hate the human characters of Transformers that they probably do think that this is a flawless story. My main concern with the Stormbringer miniseries really is a concern with all the IDW Transformers comics as a whole. It reminds me a little bit of either the first or second episode of Red vs. Blue, where one of the guys said, "Why are we here?" And then his friend thought that he was talking about, like, in an existential way, "Why are we here?" He said, "No, why are we on this planet?" And then one of them said, "Well, we're here to make sure that those guys across the cliff don't build a base on this planet." He said, "Okay, let's say that we left and they build a base on this planet. Then they have a crappy planet with a base on it. Who really cares? It doesn't actually impact the rest of the war going on all across the universe that much." Reading Stormbringer made me think of that a lot. So I still don't understand why this war between the Decepticons and the Autobots is being fought. Yes, I know that they are looking for Energon, or the Decepticons are anyway. I'm not really sure if the Autobots are. I don't know if Energon is food. Is it for a bomb? We don't know. And I do know that I have been complaining about how we don't know why this war is being fought for almost all of the Transformers videos that I've done so far. I will probably keep complaining about it until they actually reveal why this war is being fought. When you have a series that is spent during a war and is largely focused on this war that is being fought, you need to tell us why the war is being fought. You can't just expect us to be okay with there being a war and not know why these characters are fighting in this war. In this miniseries, Stormbringer, we find out that the Autobots have a unit stationed right outside of Cybertron. I have no idea why, because we find out here that Cybertron is a desolate wasteland. So why does Optimus Prime have a group of his soldiers right outside their old home planet where there hasn't been any life for 700 years? One of the characters actually says there's been no life signs on Cybertron for that long. Why do you have a whole bunch of people there when you've got all this war stuff going on every other planet in the universe? That was a little bit weird. Also, I really wish that these comics had started with a big Megatron versus Optimus Prime thing, because in Escalation, we get a little bit of a flashback showing Megatron, and actually it may have been Stormbringer, I can't remember. It was in one of these two minis. We get a little bit of a flashback showing Megatron and Optimus Prime actually teaming up to defeat a common enemy. And to me, that's something that you should have done after 2 or 3 clashes with Megatron. You don't start with the flashback with these two teaming up, and then you say, okay, but they're enemies now. You really should have shown Megatron as an enemy. And we sort of got to see him as a bad guy in the Infiltration miniseries, but really, he was busy fighting Starscream. He didn't really fight any of the Autobots or any of the human being characters, and then here, we get to see him in a flashback teaming up with Optimus Prime. I really wish that we could have had the standard story, where Optimus Prime and the Autobots are fighting Megatron and the Decepticons. Maybe even 2 or 3 stories like that. And then you can do a flashback story showing Megatron and Optimus Prime teaming up sometime in the distant past. And then you can do a story where Megatron is there and he's bad, but Starscream is there and he's really bad. Or you can bring back the Devastator, or you can bring back Galvatron or Unicron, characters like that from the cartoon series. You can do that and have Megatron slowly be less of a threat, but you need to start off with him being the big threat. And that's another thing that these comics didn't really do. In Infiltration, the Decepticons are the bad guys and Megatron is there, but he's not much of a threat to our main characters. And then here, he's again not much of a threat because there's something huge building that all these minis are building towards that doesn't have anything to do with Megatron. Overall, I think that this is good. It is building towards something, but I really wish that these have been a little bit more clear-cut in what they were doing. For example, the motivations of all the characters. I'm still complaining about that. Probably still will be complaining about it tomorrow. But overall, I think that this is pretty darn good. I would even say it's better than Volume 1, because Volume 1 had that Megatron miniseries that I really did not care for. I think that overall the quality of these stories are better than the overall quality of the stories collected in Volume 1. So I would definitely say that check out Transformers the IDW Collection Volume 2. I hope that you guys liked this video, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will be back tomorrow with another video. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.